I've covered the first and second Creepshow movies on this channel, back when I was mostly doing recaps, and ever since, the same question keeps popping up. Where's Creepshow 3? Well, a third Creepshow does technically exist. There's a 2006 movie by that name, but let me be clear, it's Creepshow in name only. No EC Comics tone, no Romero, no Stephen King, and damn sure no Tom Savini. It's just a licensed title slapped on a low-budget, low-effort anthology with none of the soul or charm of the real deal. But here's the twist. The real Creepshow 3? That was almost a thing back in the late 80s. Two of the stories that were written for it, The Cat from Hell and Lover's Vow, ended up in 1990's Tales from the Darkside the movie. Originally, the plan was Creepshow 1 would be done with Warner Bros. Creepshow 2 was a co-production between Laurel Entertainment and New World Pictures. And Creepshow 3? That was supposed to be handled by New World entirely. But New World hit financial trouble. They dragged their feet, some say maybe even wanted to go in their own direction, without King or Romero involved. And just like that, the whole thing fell apart. Warner Bros. Was reportedly still on board and pushed for a third film to happen. But because of the way the rights were split, Laurel Entertainment couldn't just go off and make Creepshow 3 without New World's involvement. So instead, Romero, King, and producer Richard Rubenstein took the ideas to Paramount, and a deal was made to produce their stories, Lover's Vow and The Cat from Hell, under the Tales from the Darkside name. But they only had 2 stories, so it was decided to fill the third spot with a story called Lot 249, which was originally written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the guy who created Sherlock Holmes. That story was adapted by Michael McDowell and rewritten to match the feel and tone of the other segments. McDowell also created the wraparound story, the one with the boy in the cage and the witch who wants to eat him. What we got was a creepy creative horror anthology to kick off the 90s. But it's worth noting, studio politics killed what could have been an all-time horror trilogy with the original Creepshow 3. It's stuff like this that pisses horror fans off. Sometimes the studios just need to butt out and let the creators create. But anyway, today we're retro-reviewing Tales from the Darkside the movie. I'll break down each segment and, as always, pause at points to share some behind-the-scenes info and, of course, give you my final thoughts at the end. If you want to help support the channel, there's affiliate links in the description. It's just an extra way to help the channel if you were thinking about renting or buying the movie. The best part is it won't cost you anything extra. It's just a way to let studios know that these videos on YouTube are a good thing, not only for us, but for them and their franchises as well. Let's talk about 1990's Tales from the Darkside. Our story starts off in an upscale suburban neighborhood. We meet a blonde woman named Betty, played by Deborah Harry, who is frantically preparing her kitchen for a dinner party. Through a door adjacent to the kitchen rattles a cage. That cage houses a young manuscript-delivering boy named Timmy, played by Matthew Lawrence. But you can relax. This isn't a ditty party or a weekend at Epstein Island. Timmy is locked in this cage because Betty is a witch, and the witch intends to cook and serve Timmy for dinner, like a modern version of Hansel and Gretel. In a desperate act to buy himself more time, Timmy begins reading from an old book titled Tales from the Darkside to distract the witch. The first story is titled Lot 249. The story starts off with 2 men moving a large crate up the steps of a dorm. We then cut to 2 friends taking playful verbal jabs at one another after a game of tennis. Andy, played by Christian Slater, and Lee, played by Robert Sedgwick. The 2 talk about Lee's, or rather his girlfriend Susan's, writing of a story for a Penrose Fellowship, and an all-expenses-paid trip to Europe. Susan, played by the beautiful Julianne Moore, is revealed to also be Andy's sister. Andy asks why Lee would use his sister to help him cheat on the essay if his parents send him to Europe every summer anyway. Lee's greed is revealed when he says he's only doing it for the fellowship money so he can bring back a Maserati. Inside, the 2 are discussing that Bellingham, the other student up for the Penrose Scholarship, actually works for his tuition. And Andy tells Lee that he better hope Bellingham doesn't find out that Susan wrote the paper for him. Just as the 2 are about to round the corner, Bellingham opens his front door to greet them before they walk upstairs. Edward Bellingham is played by Steve Buscemi. Bellingham is a smart student who actually pays attention and does his work. He congratulates Lee on winning the fellowship, though subtle bellows that he is aware that the entire competition was somehow rigged against him. In response, Bellingham invites Lee and Andy into his apartment. Inside, Bellingham discusses how, on the day before the committee was to choose a winner, someone accused him of stealing a pre-Columbian artifact from the campus museum. Andy, shocked, asks who accused him. Bellingham responds that the accusation was anonymous, while staring directly at Lee with a hint of anger in his eyes. Lee becomes jumpy and nervous, knowing he must be careful lest he accidentally reveal his involvement in the plot. Lee stays nearby as Bellingham begins opening the mysteriously large crate. Bellingham pops it open to reveal an ancient Egyptian sarcophagus. Upon looking inside, Lee becomes disgusted while Bellingham is shocked at Andy's interest. Bellingham begins to carefully remove the bandages wrapped around the mummy, and Lee quickly leaves the room to avoid seeing it. Despite Lee's absence, Andy stays with Bellingham to continue exploring and studying the body. Lee returns home and talks to Susan about Andy's decision to stay with Bellingham. Lee shares his fear with Susan, stating that he worries Bellingham knows both secrets, not only about the paper, but also that Lee was responsible for the fake tip about the stolen artifact. The scene reveals that Andy likely knows that Susan wrote the paper but lacks solid proof. Susan reassures Lee, stating that even if he did know, Andy would never turn them in, considering they are siblings. Susan further remarks that Bellingham is a coward and a loser, and feels content with being a bad person, as she casually lounges on the couch. We cut back to Andy and Bellingham. Andy says he has to go, but Bellingham, noticing that Andy's actually really interested in this, offers him the scissors, asking Andy if he wants to see his face. Once the bandages are removed, Andy remarks that the mummy looks angry. Bellingham opens up the mummy's torso, removing a rolled-up scroll hidden in its abdomen. Bellingham referred to it as a fortune cookie. He unrolled it with a smile on his face. Andy asked if he knew what it said. Edward says no, with a deceptive grin on his face. We cut back to Lee and Susan. Lee is making dinner and Susan's putting on her jacket. Lee asks if she's going to go see Bellingham, frustrated because he's making them dinner. Susan says that Bellingham is attracted to her. She intends to go see him and find out what he knows, and to throw him off their tracks. Lee retreats back into the kitchen. As he does, Susan pulls the pre-Columbian artifact out of a drawer and puts it into her pocket. We see Andy watching TV in his apartment. He can hear Bellingham reading the scroll in Egyptian. He smiles playfully, calling him an SOB as Bellingham reads the incantations out loud. We see the mummy rise from his coffin. Just then the power goes out. Andy yells downstairs to tell Bellingham to flip the breaker because it's right outside his front door. Bellingham doesn't respond, so Andy runs down and flips it himself. In the cover of darkness, Andy is grabbed and tossed aside by the reanimated mummy, but due to the darkness, he didn't see him. Bellingham finds Andy with his flashlight, trying to catch his breath after being tossed. As Bellingham asks if Andy is alright, the two hear a female scream. They rush downstairs to find Susan dazed and confused, saying that someone bumped into her and knocked her over in the darkness. As Andy goes to find the guy that tossed him like a rag doll and shoulder-checked his sister, Bellingham has a conversation with Susan. As he goes to get her a drink, Susan pulls out the stolen artifact and plants it in Bellingham's apartment. Andy returns to see Susan fiddling around the mantel of the fireplace. Bellingham makes up a story that it must have been a robber that was scared away. We cut back to Lee, asleep on his couch. The sound of glass shattering wakes him up. We see the mummy lurking as Lee, half asleep, stumbles to his front door only to find the broken glass and grab a tennis racket to defend himself. We see the mummy grab a wire coat hanger and straighten it as the mummy and Lee play a dark game of hide and seek. But it's game over for Lee. The mummy won. Susan returns home and turns on a light, only to find brains sitting in a fruit bowl. She rushes through the house only to find Lee dead on the floor, and the silhouette of the mummy walking out the back door into the darkness. The mummy returns to Bellingham's apartment. Later, after Lee's funeral, Susan reveals that she lied to the police. She saw who did it, and when she describes what she saw, Andy leans forward in realization. He puts it together that it was the mummy from Bellingham's apartment. Andy returns to the dorm to talk with Bellingham, but finds the board members at the museum have gotten another anonymous tip, revealing the location in Bellingham's apartment where the stolen artifact is. They find it in the place Susan planted it, Due to this, Bellingham is being kicked out of the university. The board member opens the coffin to find it's empty. Andy looks alarmed and confused, asking what happened to the mummy. Bellingham looks back at Andy and smiles. We cut back to Susan carelessly packing up Lee's things. It's clear at this point that she didn't actually love Lee. It was a situationship for her. She turns around to see the mummy has returned. She throws a flower pot at the mummy. It's a 100% attack with 0% damage. The look on her face says it all. She knows why the mummy's here, and she knows she won't be able to stop it. She tries attacking it with scissors, but instead the mummy pulls an Uno reverse card and uses the scissors to attack Susan from behind, stuffing flowers into the fresh wound. Andy rushes in to find her sitting upright in a chair, wrapped in receipt paper standing in as makeshift bandages. We return to find Bellingham packing up his apartment when suddenly the power cuts out. When Bellingham goes into the hallway to flip the breaker, he's knocked out. When he wakes up, he's duct taped to a chair. He sees Andy dumping a box of papers at his feet. Andy opens the mummy's coffin, snapping off 2 of its fingers and placing them on Bellingham's lap, stating they should make excellent kindling. Bellingham asks why. Andy says it's because he killed his sister and best friend. So Andy's gonna start a little bonfire using the papers from the very essay that kicked all this into motion. He sprays lighter fluid onto the papers and Bellingham. As Andy goes to grab matches, Bellingham repeats the incantation and wakes up the mummy. Andy puts duct tape on his mouth and says he believes in being prepared, and brandishes an electric carving knife. As the mummy lunges from the darkness, Andy uses the carving knife to cut off the mummy's leg. The dusty old bag of bones drops face first to the floor. Andy plays a game of ancient operation and starts dismantling the mummy piece by piece, limb by limb. He places the parts and pieces into the fireplace. Andy retrieves the scroll from Bellingham's desk and sits across from him and lights the scroll on fire. Andy isn't a killer. He says he can't go to the cops, because who in their right mind would believe any of this? So, Andy settles for destroying the mummy and the scroll that killed his sister and friend. The added benefit of setting back Bellingham's career is an added bonus. The next day, it's revealed that Andy decided to let Bellingham go. He agrees that the 2 of them won't have a problem, so long as Andy never sees him again. Bellingham nods and walks away, whispering to himself. He says that Andy won't see him, but that he will be unable to forget him. Bellingham gets into the back of a taxi and it drives away from campus. We see Andy watching TV in his room, no care in the world. We then see Bellingham laughing, holding the actual scroll in his hands. He begins to read the incantation out loud as the cab driver looks concerned. We cut back to see Andy sitting at his desk. There's a knock on his door. Andy turns around to see the door swing open. He sees the reanimated remains of Susan and Lee lurking from outside the doorway. A look of terror on Andy's face is the last thing we see, before we fade to black. Lot 249 was a fun start to the 90s classic. The mummy effects were handled by the KNBFX group, one of the most legendary practical effects houses in horror. Michael Deek, the man who wore the suit, said that it was so stiff and hot that he had to be physically propped up between takes just to stay standing. The KNBFX group was just getting started back then. They would later go on to win Oscars and Emmys for their work on The Chronicles of Narnia and The Walking Dead. Fan reception for Lot 249 tends to fall in the fun but not terrifying category. It's a strong start, and horror fans love it for its Creepshow-style moral justice, especially the poetic comeuppance each character receives. It also serves as a kind of time capsule, showing 3 actors right before they exploded into the mainstream. Personally, I think it's a solid way to kick off the movie, but maybe that's just because I grew up kind of oversaturated with classic movie monsters. I never found mummies all that scary. Any monster you can take out with a Bic lighter or cripple with a quick punch to the grundle, thanks to dry rot, doesn't exactly scream unstoppable. They're basically weaker zombies wrapped in toilet paper. That said, I still find Lot 249 fun and enjoyable to watch. It's got style, a great cast, and it moves fast. Even if the mummy isn't terrifying, the executions were solid. We cut back to Timmy and the witch talking in the kitchen. The witch is getting tools ready, but Timmy, trying to extend his time, begins another story. The witch intrigued, cleans her butchering tools with a towel as Timmy flips through the book, desperate to find a story to stall the witch. He finds and quickly begins reading the second story, The Cat from Hell. The story starts on a dark and windy night. A yellow cab stops out front of an old gothic manor, and a stern, professional-looking man steps out. His name is Halston, played by David Johansen. He is met at the front door by the older owner of the home, a man named Drogan, played by William Hickey, who's mostly known for his role as Uncle Lewis in A Christmas Vacation, and to us Tales from the Crypt fans as Carlton in the episode titled The Switch. Upon entering the dark, lifeless manor, Drogan and Halston talk near a fireplace. It's revealed that Halston is a hitman for hire. Drogan hires Halston, stating the target of this wanted assassination is standing right behind him. Halston pulls a knife, turns alarmed, only to see a small black cat laying in the doorway. Halston subtly threatens Drogan, stating that he doesn't like jokes, and that what he does is serious business. Drogan says he isn't joking, instructing Halston to sit. Drogan offers him $50,000 to kill the cat, and another $50,000 upon proof that the job is complete. Halston laughs in disbelief. Drogan says for that kind of money he shouldn't have to explain himself, but he will, so Halston will understand and not just think he's a crazy old man. Drogan states that the cat has killed 3 people in the mansion already. He starts, there were 4 people who lived in the large house, but the cat picked them off one at a time. Drogan introduces Carolyn, a family friend that has been around for as long as he can remember, Amanda, Drogan's seemingly eternally bored sister, and their servant Hector Gage. He explains that it was Gage that saw the cat first. He tried to scare it off, but it kept returning. Amanda brought the cat into the mansion, treating it as a pet. Drogan says he got a bad feeling about the cat, but the others don't heed his warnings. He asks Halston if he knows who he is, and Halston nods and says he's the owner of Drogan Pharmaceutical. Drogan nods and says the cornerstone of their company is a product named Compound G, a painkiller, tranquilizer, and mild hallucinogen, as he pops another pill into his mouth. Halston, not completely convinced, asks Drogan to continue the story of how the cat killed nearly everyone in the house. He begins with the story of Amanda's death. He recounts it started at midnight one night when his sister was going downstairs to get the cat some milk. She tripped over the cat, and for the first time since the Great Depression, took some back shots she couldn't walk away from. Next is the story of Carolyn's death. After Amanda's little accident, Drogan tries to get rid of the cat, but Carolyn scoops it up and whisks it off to her bedroom, locking the door behind her. Later that night as she slept, the cat sneaks up, and for the first time since Dan Marino held the football laces out, she gets her face written. But since they never agreed on a safe word, the cat ultimately smothers her to death. Lastly, we have the story of how the cat killed Salamanca. Alright. Gage. Late one night, Gage captured the cat with the intention of taking it to the vet to get euthanized. But mid-drive, due to a mix of loose pussy in the car, distracted driving, and a twisty camera, Gage rolls the car, resulting in his death. The day Gage was buried, the cat returned, leaving only Drogan left. Halston, still confused, asks why the cat is so dead set on killing everyone in the house. Drogan shakes the bottle of pills, explaining that over 4 years of testing, 5,000 cats were killed in the process of making the drug. The cat appears suddenly, perched on Halston's shoulder. Drogan rolls back in terror. Halston pets the cat. Drogan warns not to take this matter lightly. Halston strokes the cat, stating that he could do it right now if he'd like. The cat, sensing the pending danger, flees, scratching Halston's palm in the process. Halston, now angered, agrees to the deal. Drogan, delighted, leaves the mansion, telling Halston that he's going into the city for the night and expects that the job will be done when he returns in the morning. Drogan pops more pills as the taxi driver pulls away from the house. Halston calls out into the darkness of the mansion, telling the cat that it's just the two of them. Halston opens his case and examines his tools as the cat stalks from the shadows. Halston, biding his time, walks around the house as the cat attacks from the shadows again, as if playing a game of death by 1,000 cuts. Halston notices the cat cut him more than he realized. He's now more angered because the cat ruined his suit. Now, taking it personal, he hunts the cat in the empty halls of the mansion. Halston finds the cat in the rec room and chases it, but the slick feline outfoxes the hitman. Halston, knowing that the cat will come to him in time, elects to play a game of pool as he waits. Sure enough, the cat returns, attacking mid-game of solo pool, this time sinking its claws into the hitman's crotch. Halston, now beyond pissed, literally goes for the big guns, and like a camper in a deathmatch in Call of Duty, Halston sets a trap in the living room, just hoping the little murder kitty will make an appearance within shooting range. The cat shows up and begins eating the bowl of food that was left out. Halston takes a shot, but the bullets seem to pass right through the cat, destroying the TV. The hitman fires again and again. The bullets pass right through, like the cat isn't even there. The cat runs from the room, and the would-be hitman follows. They meet again in the main hall, the cat perched atop an old clock, and the supernatural cat lunges one final time at the hitman, but not to land a blow, to force itself down the hitman's throat and into his stomach, killing him. The next morning when Drogon returns, he finds Halston dead on his back. Just as the clock strikes 12, the cat reemerges from the body of the deceased hitman and jumps on Drogon's lap, hissing and baring its sharp fangs. The mere sight of the supernatural feline causes Drogon to suffer a heart attack, the open bottle of pills spilling onto the floor. The cat sits in the lifeless lap of Drogon, licking its blood-soaked fur, as the scene fades to black. Cat from Hell has always been one of the most talked about parts of the movie, mostly for how bonkers it is. Some fans love it for its camp and mean-spirited tone, while others find it genuinely unsettling. The way this story ties in with the pharmaceutical industry, a rich CEO being hunted by nature, hits a lot heavier now than it did back in 1990. Love it or hate it, you're not likely to forget the image of a man choking on a pissed-off house cat. The infamous scene where the cat jumps down his throat was actually done with practical effects and a fake head, but all the lead-up shots used real, trained cats. Director John Harrison said that getting the cats to hit their marks for the scene took significantly longer than filming the rest of the shots combined. Johansson hated working with the cats on set. Having to shoot and reshoot scenes can be tedious, especially with non-human co-stars. Many of the shots had to be revamped and retooled to appear from the cat's perspective just to save time and everyone's sanity. Overall, this story, in my opinion, was a solid middle segment, and that unexpected ending is one that'll live rent-free in your mind for a long, long time. The witch says that story was good, but she likes love stories. Timmy, noticing that his time is almost up, thinks on his feet and says the book has a love story. This captures the attention of the witch. She says that Timmy has to cook for a long time, but she yields and allows Timmy to read another story to her. Timmy flips through the pages frantically, falls on the story titled Lover's Vow. The story starts on a dark night in New York. An old gothic stone gargoyle looms, watching over the city from its perch. We see it staring down at the apartment of an artist named Preston, played by Dexter's dad, James Remar. Inside, Preston is sulking in his studio, surrounded by sculptures and canvases. His life is unraveling. He's a struggling artist, his bills are unpaid and piling up, and the gallery that once showed his work has stopped calling. But when his phone does ring, it's his friend Jur, who bartends down the street. He lets Preston know that Wyatt, Preston's smug agent, played by Robert Klein, showed up and has been waiting for Preston for the last half hour. Preston rushes down to the bar, only for Wyatt to say he's dropping Preston as a client. Wyatt tells him he's not marketable anymore. No one's buying or interested in his art. Wyatt leaves, putting some money under Preston's beer bottle. Already being at the bar and with his old friend Jur, played by Ashton Wise, as the sole bartender, Preston downs drinks and rants about life, art, and failure. Jur listens patiently and offers a friendly ride home. They lock up together and head out into the alleyway. Before they start walking, Preston stops to relieve himself next to a dumpster. As Jur continues to lock up the bar, there's a sudden sound that grabs his attention. Jur pulls out a gun, expecting to get mugged. He is instead attacked by a horrifying bat-like creature that drops from the darkness and tears him apart. Preston stands frozen in terror as blood sprays and Jur's body is torn to shreds. The gargoyle creature, part reptile, part demon, turns to Preston, cornering him with burning yellow eyes. But the monster doesn't kill him. Instead, it speaks. Its voice is guttural and inhuman as it makes a deal, Preston's life in exchange for a promise. He must never speak of what he's seen, tell no one, ever. It says that if he does, the promise is broken and it will return to kill him. Shaking, Preston agrees. The creature backs away into the shadows and vanishes. Shocked and wandering the streets, Preston stumbles around until he runs into a mysterious woman standing outside the bar. Her name is Kerala, played by Ray Dawn Chong. She's calm, beautiful, and doesn't seem afraid of him. Preston is visibly rattled, but she offers him comfort. He brings her home to his apartment. The tension eases, and they end up spending the night together. The years go by, Preston's career takes off. His work is featured in major galleries. He marries Kerala. They have a happy life together, even having 2 children. His old life is a distant memory, but while he enjoys success, he still wakes in cold sweats from nightmares of that fateful night. The creature, the blood, the vow. We cut to 10 years later. It's Preston and Kerala's anniversary. They drink wine at a candlelit table while the kids sleep in the next room. It's a perfect evening, until guilt creeps in. Preston can't take it anymore. He's been obsessively drawing and sculpting the creature he ran into that night. He loves Kerala so much that he wants to give her everything, including the secret he promised to keep. He decides to finally tell Kerala the truth about what happened that night. He tells her about the attack, the monster, and the vow he made. Kerala stares at him, silent and cold. Her face begins to change. She doesn't speak, but her body language grows tense. Preston asks if she's okay. Kerala suddenly yells out that he promised he'd never tell, and then she begins to transform. Before his eyes, Kerala's skin turns rough and gray. Her fingers become claws. Her beautiful face warps into the face of the gargoyle. Preston backs away in horror as she fully transforms, revealing that she was the monster all along. But it doesn't stop there. Behind them, their 2 children begin to shriek, and then they transform too, sprouting wings and scales. Preston crumbles to the floor, tears in his eyes. He whispers that he loves them and that he's sorry. Kerala, now fully monstrous, stands over him. She doesn't respond with anger, only sadness. She gently touches his face. Then she leans in and sinks her teeth into his neck, ending him instantly. It's not revenge. It's not done out of anger. It's enforcement of a broken promise. In the final moments, Kerala carries her children up through the apartment's open skylight. They land on a high rooftop. Together they curl into a perch and freeze into stone, becoming silent gargoyles watching over the city, once again. This final tale ends and Timmy closes the book, but his story's not over yet. Timmy's time is up. The witch opens his cell door. Timmy uses marbles from his pocket to make the witch slip and fall on the prepping table, dropping her keys on the floor of the cell. The momentum of the witch landing on the prepping table pushes her back into the kitchen. As the witch struggles to pull the tools from her back, Timmy frees himself and pushes the witch into the waiting flames of the oversized oven. The witch subjected to the fate she had intended for Timmy. Timmy grabs a bag of cookies off the counter and makes a dark joke and a wink to the audience.
Don't you just love happy endings?
Fans tend to mention Lover's Vow as their favorite segment. It's got it all. A horrifying starting sequence, a seductive love story, and one of the best final twists in horror anthology history. The whole segment has a dark fairy tale feel, leading to a brutal moral payoff. The gargoyle suit was an elaborate full-body animatronic creation, once again from the KNBFX group, the same team who made the mummy suit. The suit weighed so much that the actor had to lower it onto the set from above with a rig. The face alone required multiple puppeteers to operate, while the wings weighed in at dozens of pounds each. This segment sticks with the fans not just for the unexpected twist, but for the heart-wrenching tragedy of the story. It's horror with emotional impact and a perfect ending to the anthology. While there's a nagging question to be asked about the creature's actions, it's true that Preston did in fact break the vow, and the creature already knew it. In a way, it's a bit of a contradiction. But the story still resonates with a lot of people, myself included. I was going to do this video a little differently, but things didn't quite shake out. Such is life. You either roll with the punches or get kicked in the dick. Anyway, that's all I've got for you in this one. Take care, have a great week, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.